Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be sharing with you guys my cheeseburger egg roll recipe. To get started, I have 1 pound of some ground beef, I have a pack of thick cut bacon, I have some cheddar cheese that I just got done shredding up, along with 1/2 of a green bell pepper and 1/2 of a medium onion. I have my egg roll wrappers. You guys can probably find this in your produce department in your grocery store. Along with that, I have some ketchup, some Dijon mustard, some mayo. For some seasoning, I have some garlic powder, onion powder, Lawyr seasoning salt, and some salt and pepper. So first I'm going to go ahead and pan over to my stove and start cooking my bacon. Here I just have a frying pan. My stove is on medium-high heat right now, and I'm going to cook 4 pieces of bacon. Just want to make sure we render down that fat and get them nice and crispy because we're going to be adding them into our ground beef mixture. So you just see me here putting my pieces of bacon in the pan. I'm going to cook it for a few minutes on one side, flip it, and then cook it for a few minutes on the opposite side. And then after our bacon is done, we will move on. Alright, here I'm just going to go ahead and flip it so I can start crisping up the opposite side. You just want to make sure your bacon gets nice and brown and crispy. I know a lot of people like their bacon cooked at different temperatures, so I'm just going to cook it how I like it. If you guys want it more crispy, less crispy, that is your preference, and you can just adjust the cooking time yourselves. But this looks good to me, nice and crisp up, so I'm going to go ahead and take my bacon out of my pan, set it on a paper towel to catch any extra grease, and then we are going to move on. So after we set our bacon aside, in that same pan with that bacon grease, we are going to be adding in our onions and our green bell peppers. I forgot to mention in the beginning when I was showing my ingredients, I am going to be using just a little bit of stir-in garlic paste. If you guys don't have that, you can use minced garlic, and that should work fine too. So here I'm just going to add a little squeeze of my stir-in garlic paste, and then I'm going to saute up these vegetables together. Alright, so after you mix that around real good, get that garlic nice and incorporated into your veggies. Next, I'm going to go ahead and add in our ground beef. I'm just going to grab my spoon and break this up some so it can get nice and mixed up real nice together. So I'm just going to break this up real good, real nice, and then we are going to season this up after I am done. Alrighty, we broke that meat down real good, so now it's time to start seasoning up our meat. I'm going to go in first with my Lawyr seasoning salt, add a nice generous amount of that. After I add in my Lawyr seasoning salt, I'm going to hit it with some garlic powder. And then after my garlic powder, I'm going to follow it up with some onion powder as well. And then of course we're going to do some black pepper, and I'm just going to do the tiniest little sprinkle of salt because that Lawyer's did have salt in it, so we don't want to make this super salty, especially because we have that bacon. So the lightest little tiny pinch of salt, and that should be good. Go ahead and give that a good mix. Get your meat all nice and mixed up with those seasonings, and we're just going to let this cook down in our pan until our meat is nice and brown. Obviously you can see here that it's some brown and some red. That means it's obviously not cooked all the way. So after you mix in those seasonings real good, we're just going to let this sit in the pan and get nice and browned up, and then after that we're going to add our bacon back into the party too. All right, this looks really browned up, so I went ahead and chopped my bacon up, and I'm going to add that chopped bacon that we rendered down right into our pan along with our ground beef and our veggies. Give that a good toss and let that marry together in the pan. I'm going to let this cook together with the bacon for about another 1 or 2 minutes or so before we move on. Alrighty, it's been another 2 minutes or so. I'm just gonna make a hole right in the middle, and you can see how the oil starts to collect in that hole. I'm just gonna grab me a paper towel and sop that oil right up. We don't want this to be too greasy, you guys. So I'm just gonna use a paper towel to kind of soak up some of that extra grease. From, you know, the beef and the bacon. We don't want it to be too fattening. I mean, this obviously is a fattening appetizer, but if we can get rid of some of that extra fat, I'm just gonna go that extra mile. And now that this is done, most of that grease at the bottom has pretty much been absorbed by that paper towel, and this is all done. Our filling is ready. So I'm just gonna go ahead and grab myself a bowl, and I'm gonna start taking this meat and putting it into a bowl. We want to put this in the fridge to let it cool down, you guys, because you cannot make egg rolls with piping hot filling. It will destroy the egg roll wrappers and they will start to fall apart. You really want to get this cooled down before you assemble your egg rolls. As you can see here, I'm just scooping the meat and putting it into a bowl. I'm also using a spoon that has holes in it to just let some of that extra grease that the paper towel was not able to grab fall out. The reason why I am not using a strainer is because, you know, sometimes when you use a strainer, you're getting rid of the grease, but you also get rid of some of that seasoning too, and I want to make sure I keep the seasoning. So now that I have my meat in the fridge cooling down, we're going to go ahead and make us a dipping sauce to go with our egg rolls. In a bowl, I'm just going to add 2 tablespoons of some mayonnaise, and I'm going to use a few, I want to say this was probably 2 tablespoons or so of ketchup, and then I'm going to use about 1 teaspoon of our Dijon mustard. Along with that, I am going to sprinkle in just a little bit of garlic powder. This gives it a really good flavor, and I'm going to mix this up until it becomes a nice creamy consistency, and then we have a nice beautiful sauce to go along with our egg rolls. Alrighty, now that our sauce is nice and smooth and silky, there's no lumps, this is ready to go. We have a beautiful sauce to go along with our egg rolls. So I'm going to set that to the side, and I'm going to grab my filling from out of the fridge. It has been cooled down completely, and we're going to start assembling these egg rolls. So first I'm going to grab one of my wrappers. I'm going to lay it on my plate. Here I have a ramekin filled with water. As you can see me doing here, I just take 2 fingers, dip it in the water, and you want to saturate all 4 corners of your egg roll with the water because this is what seals it. So after I put water on all 4 corners, I'm going to grab some of my shredded cheddar cheese, put that down on the egg roll wrapper, and then I'm going to add a nice spoonful of our hamburger mixture, put that on top of our cheese, and I'm going to show you guys how to roll this up as well. So this part can be a little bit tricky. This is how I like to do it. I know people fold these so many different ways, but this is just the way that I do it. I grab one corner, I kind of tuck the meat back, grab one end, fold it in, grab the other end, fold it in, and then I just roll it and make sure everything is nice and tight. And that is how I form my egg rolls. And that's it. So I'm going to show you guys again how I do this. I'm going to set that to the side and start again. Grab one egg roll sheet, lay that down. We're going to saturate the corners. Go ahead and saturate the corners with some water. And make sure they're very, like, you don't want to saturate them too much to where the egg roll is soggy, but you want to make sure they're nice and saturated, because if they're not wet, your egg roll will not close, and as you fry them, they will start to open up. So you really want to make sure you're rolling this nice and tight and you have enough water to make sure it seals properly. So I went down with my shredded cheddar cheese. I can't talk today, I'm sorry y'all. I'm going down with my cheese, and then I'm going to grab a nice handful of our mixture, place that on top, and then we are going to do this process all over again. And I'll show you one more time how I fold this up. Grab one corner, fold that in half. We're going to tuck that mixture back, grab one corner, fold that in, the other, fold it in, and then we make sure it's nice and tight and we roll. And that's it, you guys. So I'm going to go ahead and knock out the rest of these, and I will pan over to my deep fryer. This is how I am going to be cooking my egg rolls. If you guys do not have a deep fryer, you can just use a frying pan on your stove or a pot filled with oil. As long as the oil is at least 350 degrees, your egg rolls will crisp up real nicely. So I'm just going to go ahead and drop these down into my fryer. I'm going to cook these for about 5 to 6 minutes, just until that wrapper gets nice and brown and crispy. So after about 5 or 6 minutes, I'm going to grab them out with my tongs. You see how they're nice and brown and crispy? That is the color that you want to see. I'm going to take these out of the oil and place them on a wire rack. That is how I like to cool them. If you place them on like a plate with a paper towel, that is a way for it to cool and catch the oil, but I will tell you that if you do that, the egg roll wrappers will probably become soggy after a while, because they're sitting on that paper towel that's saturated with oil, and it will cause your wrapper to become soggy. So if you have a wire rack, I would recommend you use that to cool them instead. That way your egg roll wrapper stays nice and crunchy, which is what we love, obviously. So I'm going to go ahead and finish frying up the rest of my egg rolls, and I will be back to show you guys how I cut these and plate them at the end. Alright, so all of our egg rolls have been cooled. I'm going to show you guys how I cut these. I like to cut them on a diagonal. I think it's prettier for presentation and also easier for dipping. So as you saw, I kind of stood it straight, and then I just took my knife and cut it diagonally down the middle. And that is how I am going to plate them up. So I'm going to grab a platter, and I just placed all of our egg rolls on there along with that sauce that we made. And that is it, you guys. This is the finished product. Our cheeseburger egg rolls, which is perfect for game day. Your family and friends will love this recipe, and if you love this recipe, give it a thumbs up, and I will see you next time. Bye.